Kia ora, I'm Miriam Makamo. Tonight, the spy who photographed and recorded you and me without us knowing and handed it over to police. Rob Gilchrist says for 10 years he was paid by police to clandestinely photograph and record the activities of activists and people protesting. And he says we all need to know what the state does in our name. It also poses the disturbing question, were the police operating legally? Here's Ian Sinclair.
You're about to meet one of our intelligence world's most controversial assets.
I was seen as a major troublemaker. I was a real bastard.
Codename Muldoon. Real name Rob Gilchrist. His mission, he says,
to infiltrate various activist groups throughout New Zealand and gain intelligence on what they were doing and who was doing it.
His revelations about New Zealand's spy culture would prove even more bizarre than the secrets he uncovered.
The government loves to say that, you know, if you've got nothing to hide, then you've got nothing to be worried about. But the reality is that if you imagine your life is in a box, how does the government know what is in your box until it opens it?
And to look into your private life requires quite an arsenal.
This is most of the video equipment that we used.
These are Rob's tools of trade.
That's just a little button cam.
Covert cameras, microphones, concealed in bags and clothes.
So the microphone's also incorporated into the lens there.
Even a tiny two-way radio hidden in his ear.
It's just a little earbud. Use it exactly the same as a hearing aid. You just insert it into your ear.
And a wristwatch microphone so his controllers could hear everything.
And it's just a push of the watch to transmit.
So just to clarify, the police were telling you what questions to ask people and they were eavesdropping on the answers live?
Yes.
With no warrant?
As far as I know, no.
Did it occur to you that this could be illegal?
I don't know if I was naive or trusted what I was told. You know, it never occurred to me.
So why is a man whose stock and trade was secrecy now talking? Well, that's because Rob Gilchrist reckons he was let down and abandoned by the very people who hired him, police criminal intelligence. And that after 10 years of secret service that he says changed his life.
I got involved with a group that was stealing cars. As I said, I mean, I was young and stupid and...
It was his own youthful dabbling in petty crime that led him to police contact.
I saw what that did to my father and his relationships with a lot of his friends who were cops.
Later, he decided to make amends by serving the law instead of breaking it.
I guess that a motivating factor was to be able to show my dad that, you know, maybe I wasn't such a cock-up after all.
His chance came when he secretly taped a local communist meeting back in the 90s.
What did you do with the tape?
That particular tape went to the SIS, who I understand then passed it on to police.
Apparently, he impressed the cops enough to use him as an informer. His brief, infiltrate protest groups.
There were animal rights groups, anarchist-type groups, anything with a sort of a fringe political element, I suppose.
Now, your average person out there might be thinking, just a bunch of protesters, why on earth would the police be worried about them?
A lot of animal rights groups overseas have done this and this. We know that animal rights groups have been involved in certain things in New Zealand. We'd like to know what those groups are, who they are, and what their involvement is.
Have you had any run-ins with the owners of farms before?
On a couple of jobs I've had a farmer come out with a shotgun.
Oh, no good.
So trusted was he that Rob Gilchrist actually became a protest leader.
We're not interested in hurting anyone.
When Mikey Havoc, a newsboy, raided a chicken farm 10 years ago, it was a balaclavaed Rob who was the voice of the animal rights activists.
Really, we'll only enter somewhere and break something, obviously, to rescue animals. We're not just there just to break shit just for the hell of it.
So you were living a lie, effectively.
Yeah, it's been referred to as a decade of deceit.
Is that how you'd describe it?
Yeah.
How would you justify that as a job, being a spy on your mates?
The reality was that they weren't my mates to begin with. I was tasked specifically to get involved with certain people, and that was my job. I mean, I think everybody has certain parts of their job that they don't like. People do it.
He was a nice guy. He was smart. I could talk to him about anything. Yeah, I trusted him. I felt like I could.
One who fell hook, line and sinker was animal rights activist Rochelle Reese.
I bumped into him and we decided that we'd catch up and we shared a bottle of wine and yeah.
Was it love?
Yeah, yeah.
She had no idea she'd been seduced by a spy in the pay of police.
Were you ever in love?
Oh, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to answer that.
So how deep was the relationship?
I cared for her. I still do. You know, yeah, I think that covers it.
Were you spying on her as well?
At the time, yes. When it started, once a relationship formed, I suppose, there was basically she became out of bounds.
Rochelle was yet to learn that her boyfriend was a police stooge.
I wouldn't be in a relationship with him if I knew what he was doing for a living.
Next up is your face on police files and when the spy crossed the wrong woman.
I wanted to yell at him. I wanted to confront him.
How much spying happens in New Zealand?
A hell of a lot more than what most people realise.
Take a good look at these pictures. Have you ever been in a protest? If so, you could well be on these police files snapped by Rob Gilchrist.
Here's another, just a little digital camera.
And not just your face, your private conversations too.
During, say, a demonstration, I'd be able to transmit that conversation through a microswitch under my watch directly to police.
And all along, protesters trusted him as a friend and ally.
Was it difficult for you having to pretend you're one person and really being another?
Constantly. It's very much an act in that you need to be somebody else. And remembering that I wasn't involved with any of these groups beforehand. I wasn't an activist. I hadn't been involved in anything political or involved with animal rights or anything. So it was very much new to me. And
but he couldn't fool all of them forever.
I was once told by an ex-undercover cop that women were the most dangerous things out there in relation to undercover police officers or male undercover police officers.
Rob's partner, Rochelle Reese, would be his undoing. Rochelle was an IT specialist, and one day Rob asked her to fix his laptop.
It was just running slow. You know, it took a long time to be able to do anything.
Once in his laptop, Rochelle spotted something wrong with Rob's emails. Someone was asking too many questions.
activists planning any response to this particular visiting dignitary from overseas. Just questions like that.
And activist emails all forwarded to a mystery address.
I immediately had this sinking feeling and I knew that Rob was an infiltrator.
So she downloaded some spyware.
He went to the bathroom and I Bluetoothed the software to his phone and opened it, and from that second on I had access to everything.
So you were spying on the spy?
I was.
Every call Rob made, every text, every email was now flicked across to Rochelle's phone.
I wanted to yell at him, I wanted to confront him. But if I did, I wouldn't have got any further information.
Rob's texts revealed mysterious payments made to his bank account.
It was a $600 a week one that we managed to prove was coming from the police, because one of the deposits of $600 happened to coincide with his handler texting him the previous day saying, "I'm going to the bank tomorrow."
In the end, she couldn't bring herself to face him as his accuser. So she left it to other activists to confront Rob. He was outed as a police stooge in the national media.
I was dumped, I suppose, by police. Once I'd sort of gone past my use-by date and being identified, there wasn't a lot of backup or support from a national level.
He was referred to me by some senior police that I know. Those police officers were very concerned that he may not be treated properly by the department.
Lawyer Grant Cameron is now acting for Rob Gilchrist in a legal stoush with the police.
He was, I think, misled. Misled in the sense that he wasn't fully informed as to what he was going to be doing or quite what the arrangements were with him personally.
For that, he's seeking compensation, and the numbers are pretty big.
Well, I think at the end of the day, there could be figures in excess of $500,000.
But that's just the tip of the legal iceberg.
But it's very much more serious in my view, because it involves covert surveillance of people. It's essentially issues about the state spying on the populace.
For 10 years, Gilchrist says he was paid to follow the direction of the police. That included carrying live cameras and microphones into private houses.
Should they have had a warrant for that?
In terms of the electronic surveillance, yes. It was a fishing expedition to find out about people, find out about what they were up to, what their intentions and motivations were. You had no reason to suspect the commission of a crime in the first place, so you have no reason to be there. So I think it's illegal on that basis as well. So yeah, there's some pretty serious questions here.
Rob Gilchrist says his double life undercover triggered post-traumatic stress disorder. Adding to that was the backlash from his public unmasking.
I had damage done to my house, to my cars. I had a number of death threats. Somebody put a bullet in my letterbox with Rob written on it.
He says he's not looking for sympathy, just a fair hearing.
Why do you think the public should care about your case?
Because spies happen. I think public needs to be aware of what it is that happens, whether it's right or wrong. Now, I'm not justifying what I did, but I'm saying that it needs to be out there. People need to be aware of, you know, of what happens in reality, in real life.
Well, police declined to be interviewed because the matter's before the Employment Relations Authority, but they will vigorously defend the action.